Books. All right, let's go share a screen. Where's my punchline? Where's my first punchline? All right, so that's the point of the books. Here, there is my fake version. I am a. So the best part about Ravenclaw is that it heals the psychic schizophrenia. So all the CRI from all the like 20,000 hours of astral travel is now fully integrated into the physical world. And now you get a chance to like master infinity. But everybody goes, yeah, you're just a schizophrenic. All the muggles. The muggles couldn't even handle if you were psychic. Let me say this again. The muggles couldn't even handle if you were psychic, much less doing anything that required the word astral coming out of your voice. And so now you're stepping into like a red ray mastery. And you're like, oh, my chi is inside of my body. And I live in the now. And I don't need a grounding cord because we clip it cleaned and we burned through Gaebera. So we're like, here, in the moment. So that's anti-Hodebot. The point is this, is that sheer austerity from Emma Watson when she was like 10 years old. Maybe was she like 12? I don't know. He's like, yeah, I'm schizophrenic. Here's your reading list. The point is this. We're not allowed to read metaphysical books in Ravenclaw or the Seraphim. If we're going to read metaphysical books in the Seraphim, it's like on demon hunting and profiling so that you can be a criminal profiler or an asset to law enforcement. Human justice system law enforcement. Let me say this again. In the Seraphim, in the Gaebera, you are seeking to be an asset, a grounded, sane, intelligent asset at least a muggle level and above to human rights, criminal law enforcement. That is the bar for the Seraphim. Let me say this again. We are not seeking to ascend into the white light of God. A Seraphim is seeking to be an asset in the physical world to a human rights, criminal law enforcement, and preferably justice system. You do not have to join those tribes, but you need to be an asset to those tribes, period. Okay, so that's how you know you're running Gaebera instead of blah, blah, other stuff. Yeah. So let's cover. So here's our page, Hermione's book review. We find it like if you go to the Hesed material. You're on you go to Khamael book review and you just click on it. I'm going to change out that graphic, etc., etc. All right, so we have a reading list for this next year, and we're going to write like a book report, a video on every single chapter. We already did a trial last year for one of the books, for 2 chapters, and we were still a little bit in our wounded post-Gaebera phase. We're trying to heal ourselves. We're kind of in the heat of battle still. And so it was a little bit low. It was more reactive instead of thoughtful. So we're going to go back and we're going to redo it. And we're going to start from the beginning, start from fresh. We're not reading the Philosopher Queens this year, but it is on year list 2. We have the list here of all our books we are going to do for year 1. And we're going to talk about year 2 in the next video. But here's a general list. Both the Hashmalim and the Seraphim list. If there's not a picture there, it's okay. The book is still on this list. All right. So this list went online last year. So you had a year to kind of gather your thoughts or feelings, or you even had a year to read any of this material, and then you can do the study along with us. Now, this is coming from the higher Hesed intelligence thought with the A&R work. So how you think and feel about the material is different than if you were a muggle. Let me say this again. Reading higher level philosophy from Ravenclaw is point blank mandatory and easy. And you're required to understand that philosophy. And then write about it. Now, if you're a muggle, if you're like a normal Hodebot reading that material, it is food and it's like transcendence to your thoughts or your concepts about life. And from Ravenclaw, it's like, it's my daily practice of living. Let me say this again. From Ravenclaw, you should kind of be one of these philosophers and write classical philosophy books. Period. So that's the level, and that's the level of expectation, because you're running high Hesed through the Clippet with all the good A&R work. And from that, you are the communicator. Sorry, through that, you're the Hierophant or higher level communicator to the general populace on this planet. So you have the highest level intelligence thought available to be deconstructed by the human populace, by the general human populace. And that's what they're going to do. So it's our job to study literally everything needs to be studied all over. It needs to be re-reviewed. All right. Every single year, we're going to be doing a philosopher. And for the first 2 years, we're just kind of ease into it. Let me say this again. We're going to just roll into, we're going to ease into it because we're also trying to do things like write the Tao script, and we're trying to write a movie named Dust and write a Wes Anderson movie and a bunch of other things at the same time as being hunted by the Cabal, which is a little odd, but that's life in general. Okay, so we are the builders of our fortunes. So we're going to just start with one of the Ralph Waldo Emerson books, but he is going to be our first philosopher in review for the first 2 years. So we don't need to add a bunch of excess. This is in our year 2. I'll write that on that page. But this is our general place. I will have a page book review year 1. Book review year 2 will be a separate page so it doesn't clutter. year 3 will be a separate page. So then you have a year in advance to keep on looking. So this is just kind of the general idea. All right, let's start with our Amazon links and our book covers. We're gonna go through the Dow because we're writing the Dow movie. So we're gonna go through every single page and do like a 5 to 10 minute video. And I'll do the live reading of the poem and just kind of go through the general philosophy of what that poem even meant, because it's so abstract to human thought. And it's not really. All of that abstractness actually manifests as like a feminine goddess lesson into a practical daily purpose, existence, life. So we're gonna go through that. That will be our first. It will take us 3-4 months to go through the Dow and do all the video, and we'll probably write notes. We're on page 26 right now from the last breakdown, and then we had to go through a bunch of other work. All right, first real book, we're going to start with 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So the baseline for work productivity on this planet, it is like, look at this on Amazon. We're at 11,000 ratings at like 4.5 stars. Okay. It is the Hierophant educational book around productivity. Let me say this again. It is the Hierophant. It is the standard of classical productivity. You are required in Ravenclaw to be at classical productivity or better. But you're not too spiritual, because that's not Ravenclaw. Sorry. That's everybody's excuse for infinity. All the spiritual people are hippies, and they all belong in Hufflepuff, and they don't believe in left brain anything. So Ravenclaws have to pass left brain nexus. They have to have a fully active left brain capacity available that's above Bina level intuition. Let me say this again. It's above Bina level intuition. Above it, it's Hokmah, which is an alpha level logical, mathematical Hierophant, classical Hierophant, music, philosophy, art, education. Left brain. Okay, so that includes productivity and Hierophant level sciences and medicine and etc., etc. Let's go to marriage and lasting relationships with Asperger's syndrome. Okay, so every single Ravenclaw on this planet has Asperger's. Let me say this again. Every single Ravenclaw on this planet is on the autism spectrum. They will not relate to people at all. At all. So we don't call them on the spectrum. We call them neuounos. So it's like a higher level intelligence because it's past Tiferet. We've transcended the spiritual hippie world. And now we're back into the ascended master, highly elevated productivity brain. That is A&R These are multilingual individuals, highly proficient at, I don't want to say multitasking, but layering. They can have 5 careers at once at elevated levels and be at the top of their fields. Gifted children that have cooked their brain through Tiferet. So they've already passed all the healing. They have 10,000 hours of Reiki practice. They have 20,000 hours of meditation. Okay. So those people aren't normal autism. It's a different type, but we still have to connect with everybody like we are autistic in life. Because nobody's going to understand that when we tell them to fuck off, it's because we mathematically calculated how demonic their brains are based off of their insanity, but based off of their inappropriate dispositions, based off of their current illogic structure. So we can't communicate with them, and we don't know how to relate. They also will look at somebody just that, oh, like they look at meditation, like meditation is a fallacy. And you're like, I spent 30,000 hours meditating to perfect my human genome. So there's just nothing, there's no, do you understand? Like you at that point are diagnosed with Asperger's and that's it. Or you're on the spectrum of autism. That's it. Okay. So we're going to go through that book. We're going to look at how people are going to perceive us without even saying we're an ascended master or a baby ascended master. Okay. It's just how people perceive us socially, because we believe our work ethic was 10 times more important than our social appearance. We were also beaten to death out of society by those same people. Most of us. Okay. Becoming What You Are by Alan Watts. This is classic. We are the builders of our fortunes. Okay. We're going to study self-reliance for the next few years. Because we're going to learn that not one person is going to help us or elevate us at all. They are going to expect us to do everything, even if we're bleeding. And they will do nothing to help, even if we're screaming for help. We're going to learn self-reliance 100%. And they will be left to decay off the planet. It is emotionally challenging to scream for help from everyone, and they won't even read a book. And they're still better than you, and they're right and you're wrong about everything. And the ascended masters are going to be like that. And we're going to have to train our brains to be okay. We're going to train ourselves to emotionally handle it instead of flip out. Let me say this again. We're going to develop bedside manner in emergency case scenarios out of the blue from scratch. And we're going to become dependent on ourselves. And then when we're good there, then we can be serving people from our overflowing cup. That's it. We can be servicing people from our overflowing cup that is abundant in something. But when we're not taken care of, there's, oh, well, you're praying for things that don't exist. All right. The Alchemist. I don't care if you've read it. It's going to be different. Let me say this again. So if you're an Ascended Master, this should be brilliant. After you've gone through Gaebra and you're in the Ravenclaw mental brain, the Alchemist is going to look and feel different. And how your brain perceives it's going to look and feel different. Lean in. This is going to be awesome. Before Ravenclaw, my brain couldn't handle this book, even though it was the biggest popular fad. It was mind-blowing popular fad, and my brain just goes, no. All right. Because I'm like Buffy instead of like, yay, all the other people are doing it, so I'm gonna do it too. But from Ravenclaw, this is excellent, and it's female empowerment building. And so it's gonna, from a Hesed brain, this book feeds you instead of diminishes you. All right. We are gonna learn how to handle the children. Let me say this again. We're going to learn how to handle the children through the world's worst catastrophes and the world's worst, scariest, most embarrassing scenarios available. The things where little white children are privileged and shielded from in existence. And we're going to learn how to empower them and educate them instead. So Judy Blume is mandatory. We're going to read all of her books, and we're going to start with Blubber. She is fantastic at running around the issue 0. We bring up the issue and we kind of coat it in like a sugar candy frosting. And then it's digestible and it doesn't feel or look bad. So she kind of like Mary Poppins in many multidimensional capacities. And we're going to work with her as much as possible, because the idea of talking about knife rape or FGM or torture or the cabal or the pedophile ring or the giant list of crazy about to explode on this planet is mind-blowing. And the idea that I have to even mention that to my nieces who are not muggles, it's too much. I cannot do it. I do not know how. And so we're going to work with Judy Blume and we're going to figure it out. Period. Because that's the job of an Ascended Master. It's okay. We're not good. We're not good. So we're going to start, and we're going to start to figure it out so we can like get good. After the future. Okay. We're going to read this book. It fell into my lap. It's like on a must read in my brain. And I don't know why. So it's got an X factor. The word for world is still forest. Here is, like, we have one rating here. So this is another one that fell into my lap. You want to read like Greta's book? We have that on the Seraphim list, and we'll get to that year 3. But this is where we're at year 1. All right. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. We're going to read this because we're going to initiate in our mind a crossing of the abyss. Let me say this again. We are at death's door in Ravenclaw. We will be dissecting and reviewing the Tibetan Book of the Dead. We will be honoring the practices, even if we're disillusioned by their head educators. Let me say this again. We are not throwing out the baby with the bathwater here. We are taking the Tibetan Book of the Dead. We're going to review it. And we're going to honor the sacred practices. And we're going to look into everything. The pig that wants to be eaten. Okay, so this, we ate it. we ate this book. It was awful. I picked this book up thinking I'm going to write a movie for a bunch of little African-American Black girls in the hood and how they would pick this book up and change their lives with it. And the book was awful, but we still need to deconstruct all the mathematical logic behind it. It was so dry. It didn't really hit the spot to make. So the How to Kill a Fairy TV show that I was thinking of writing for Isla actually does hit the spot, and then it would just kind of take the place of this anyway. But this is still on our list. All right, now we're going to talk about coping. So this is like how to break through weird fallacies through thought experiments. And this is our first coping book. This is an easy book list because we're just stepping out of Gabriel and we spent our whole life meditating. Let me say this again. Instead of going to Harvard Law School, we spent our life meditating and studying Kabbalah and studying the esoteric sciences. So our right brains are really developed. Maybe our reading list isn't. Some people's are. We're going to talk about this and the highest level of coping mechanisms on the planet. I don't care who you are. There's nobody too advanced to read this book. I just experienced it today. And then here we go. Someday a bird will poop on you. All right, so these 2 books are great for Gabriel and the Seraphim reading list because everyone's going to cross your boundaries on this planet. Let me say that again. Every single person is going to cross your boundaries on this planet. Let me say it again. Every single person on this planet is going to cross your boundaries. And even if you're in 100% God's justice, they're going to cross your boundaries. Period. You're on the side of God as an ascended master, and you're going to have a cop with a gun in your face. Let me say that again. You're going to be an angel as an ascended master And you're going to have a cop with a gun in your face, thinking that they're right and you're a fucking demon. Period. And it doesn't matter if you're doing A&R marks. Let me say this again. You're going to have a gun in your face for doing A&R marks because they're super demons. They're psychotic, they're violent, and they don't understand what it means to meditate or eat well. Their level of intelligence is of a diseased cockroach instead of human. Period. I know, I hear Marshall Mathers going, I've seen it. I've seen it. Someday a bird will poop on you. And who moved my cheese? Mandatory, because we're going to learn how to control ourselves and our anger. Okay. Hopefully 90% of the FBI is in the human trained category and will be in the Hufflepuff space at the minimum. That's what we're hoping for. Best case scenario. Okay. Kelly doesn't trust the FBI, and McKenna begs them to be in the House of Raziel. So there's a difference between Hesed and Gabra. So McKenna asked them to be in the House of Raziel legal, Gabra. And Kelly goes, get out of my face. Like, get out of Hesed. So they're just that. Just know the law of expectation in your brain is that you have to accommodate its self-reliance. You have to accommodate for their illogic that they didn't do all of the 50,000 hours of meditation, and they didn't do the 10 years of Kabbalah training, and they didn't do the 20,000 hours of A&R work, and then they also didn't, they didn't take the Chris Voss class on empathy trainment. And maybe they didn't watch the TV show Coffee Black like I'm trying to write, which is to educate a bunch of law enforcement on how to handle people in the future in like fun, creative, smart ways. Maybe they didn't do any of that. And so then you have to comment. So self-reliance and coping, period. So that's year one. All right, does everybody get the pattern for year one? We have a couple of weird X Factor books. We have like Lean In, The Alchemist. All right, so this is the future. So we have one book a month. We're doing one book a month, and I'm holding myself accountable to it. And then we're also doing one little video on the Tao a day. All right, stop share. Color Run out.